Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. This is Natasha, Britches Get Stitches. If you have stumbled upon here out of the depths of YouTube scrolling and randomization, I am a crafter of multiple types of crafts, but primarily cross stitch and sewing. And I have cats that like to interrupt. I do a lot of like floss tubes and such on here, but I also do quite a bit of sewing in the background as well. And I've done sew tubes before, just a term I made up. And I've decided to also show a little bit of some tutorial style stuff, especially of the things that I make pretty often. And so I am gonna show a little tutorial on how to make these training pants. So those of you that don't know, I have a 3-year-old and she is in the middle of potty training. She's potty trained during the day, but not as much during the night. But you know, any moms out there will know that potty training normally doesn't happen for good until you're about 5. And we are a cloth diapering family. Like, we cloth diapered most of her childhood, she's 3 years old. For the first, 3 years or 2.5, when she was on diapers, we did cloth diapering, and we primarily did the pocket insert style cloth diapering. If you want to know more about that, feel free to message me. And so I made a lot of our inserts and such. I was able to get a bunch of cloth diapers cheap that people were reselling because the elastics had gone out, and so all I did was replace elastics in a bunch of old cloth diapers, which is one way to save a lot of money because those cloth diapers can get a little bit expensive. But I decided once she started potty training that I wanted to make my own, because most of the time what you use is pull-ups, and because there aren't cloth overnight training pants. There's training pants for during the day, but overnight it's kind of like nothing's really out there. And so I have been searching for quite a while, and I found a pattern on Etsy. I don't necessarily recommend it, so I'm not going to link it, just because I found a few issues with it that I don't agree with, and the owner was not that responsive either. So I don't recommend this pattern, but it let me kind of finagle my way through. And so I'm gonna kind of go through and show you what I did. Now keep in mind, the first part of this video, I was making like my 2nd or 3rd pair, and so we hadn't been doing it a lot. This was back in February, and then I came back to it and realized I hadn't finished filming the other parts of it, and I had to make new ones anyway because she'd grown. And so the second half of the videos, I'll talk about a couple things that I changed from making the first set. So let me grab the pattern that I used, and I'll come back and I'll talk about that. Okay, so this is the pattern I got. It was very clearly hand-drawn. Once you bought the pattern, you then had to email the person to let them know the waist size, as well as the inner leg, the thigh circumference. And I did that, and then it took almost a week and a half to get the pattern from her. And it's like, well, I needed to sew this between now and then. So I was on the verge of trying to get my money back. And even now I realize that, she gave me a one-time pattern. Most sewing patterns that you get, you've got multiple sizes in, but I only have one. So that's just a couple of the issues I had, with it being hand-drawn. Like, some of the stuff didn't match up. So it was a lot of finagling. And So that's a couple of the reasons I wouldn't recommend it. But basically, the waistline, and just by measuring, I found that, you know, Lucy's waist was at the time 19 inches and her leg circumference was 11. She's since gone up an inch. So I've had to increase that to this larger size. And so both measurements, when you combine the two pieces, so like front and back measurements, ends up being about 5 inches longer than the waist circumference. And you can see like it's quite big. Like this is supposed to be 3T. They fit her perfect. It feels huge and bulky, but it fits her perfect. So it adds about 5 inches, and then it's the same thing between 5 and 6. So I went with 5.5 on my increase. Same thing for the leg circumference here. Her legs were 11 inches, and the combined, once you make your actual leg hole, this was 5.5 inches bigger than her existing measurement. And so that just gives you an idea of what size to aim for, and hopefully you can sketch out a pattern yourself. This width here doesn't super matter because it's going to be bulked up with the flour sack towels. And so we have a heavy wetter, and I've known that since she was a baby. We cannot use microfiber because it has a lot of compression leaks. And so we had to use flour sack towels, which held the best, or hemp was really good for inserts for Lucy. But anyway, so I ended up using between 6 and 8 layers of flour sack towel, even though the recommended was only 4, because she was wetting through these like crazy. And so in my new pair, in the bigger ones, I have 8 layers of flour sack towel in here. And she's worn the new pair 2 nights now, and it's done great. Another issue was that the interior pattern was actually drawn to be longer than the exterior. So you were folding the interior around as the waistband to them. And the problem with that is once the liquid soaks up in the flour sack towel, well, then it's going to go into your lining, which is just fleece because it's to set against her skin, and that's going to soak up and through. And so she was wetting like near her belly button, and it's like, why is this happening with the pull and everything in between? And so that was just another issue. So I ended up making them both the same size in my second round, and put in a alternate layer, and that just ended up providing one more barrier against leaking. Like she's still gonna leak because these things aren't 100% leak proof. You know, there's not really a good way to make sure that it doesn't escape out compression leaks from the lining. She's just gonna soak through the flour sack towels, but it gives us enough of a buffer that I'm not changing the sheets every single night. So I think that kind of covers what I think I wanted to with the pattern and such. I'm more than willing to talk you through drafting your own pattern if this is something that you want to do, or maybe I'll go ahead and work on developing a pattern, because like I said, this one just did not fit what I needed it to do and is not as reliable. So I ended up doing a lot of modification to it and such. So yeah, but it was a fun experiment, and Lucy now has what we call fancy pants, overnight training pants. They're cute. They've got a layer of pull in there. Let's see, the The flour sack towels are just sewn in. I guess you probably can't really see that there's like a pad in there. And these are loose enough that she can grow into them and pull them up herself. And I made her 3 new pair. We had 5 existing pair. And so what I'm gonna do with those is I'm actually gonna take the smaller ones, the ones that are too small. I'm gonna pull out the side seam and clip the, well, I won't need to clip because it's all part of the interior fabric. So what I'll cut off, or I'll unpick the side seams, and I'm actually gonna add another like band just of fabric in there, probably stretchier fabric, or maybe I'll grab some like thick elastic and such, and I can run it from the sides so that I don't have to make a whole new pair every time she goes up an inch. Like these are probably gonna last her another size or 2. And hopefully by then she'll be nighttime potty trained. But that's a really cool thing about, you know, making your own pieces of clothing and stuff, is it's really easy to modify and change things up to fit you specifically. And it's not going to matter if it doesn't look nice. Like you can clearly see my seams are not perfect. I made a few boo-boos, but they're going under pajamas. No one really cares. So, okay, so let me just go ahead and get into the making of things, and I hope you enjoy the tutorial. Okay, so this is a bit of a test run. So I have the 2 pattern, or 3 pattern pieces, I guess. I'm saving this until I can pick up some flour sack towels. They're pretty cheap at Walmart. I'm gonna make a run tonight. I've got some other things I've got to get because Lucy's birthday's this weekend. So I'm gonna pick up some flour sack towels while I'm there. I just use scrap paper. We save all of our old paper, and that's what we print on. So this is the part of the pattern that goes into, it makes the lining, the actual like, or not lining, it makes the absorbent pad. And so you can make this as thick as you want, 2 layer, 4 layer. It depends on how much your child, you know, goes to the bathroom at night. And Lucy's in that stage where she's starting to go less and less. So I'm probably gonna start with, I think I'll do 3 layers, because when I did the flour sack towel pads the first time for the cloth diapers, you end up folding them enough that you've got probably 8 layers, I want to say. And so I'm gonna cut that down. I'll do 4. We'll do 4 layers of flour sack towels for absorbent for her, and we'll kind of see how that goes. Because again, this is a test run, so we're gonna see how these work, and then if this fits and it works for her, then I'm good to go. So I'm gonna set that to the side for a moment, because this is just for like a fit test for her. So you've got your lining piece and then your exterior piece. Now you don't have to do an exterior piece. If you don't want to do any sort of decoration on the outside, you just want to do the pull and the fleece, then you can just test run with the fleece. I am gonna give it a shot, and we're gonna do some just random, I've just got some of this pink cotton hanging around. I'm just gonna do that as a little decoration, see what happens there. I'm not gonna cut the pull though for this test run, for the fit run, because pull is expensive, and if I happen to cut it and it's the wrong size, I don't want to have to cut it again. So what I did is I took, it was already folded in half, so I did cut 2 pieces of this pink. You can see it's just kind of ribbed material there, nice and light. It's just going to be decoration. It's not really serving as anything other than decoration, so that one's there. And then this was the extra fleece I had left over. The great thing about, you know, using or making diapers and pull-ups is it doesn't matter what you use. You can use up all of your scrap, because ultimately it's just gonna go on their bottom. So this is the fleece that's going to be on the inside. I had some left over from that previous project with the shirt that I did, and so I'm just gonna use this as the what goes against her skin. It's mostly meant to serve as just like a soft interior that goes against her skin, so you can use another cotton if you want, although it's not as comfortable to sleep in cotton unless you have like a blend. But basically you don't want to use microfiber, because microfiber, you know, same thing with cloth diapers, microfiber against the skin just sucks the moisture out and it's going to make them chafe really bad. So we're gonna do this fleece here. So again, I cut 2 of that interior just because I had that already folded over. So move these patterns to the side here, and what I've done is I've laid these out, and again you'll see that the lining is actually bigger or longer than the interior because you're gonna have some folding over in that. So I've just got these laid out, and I've got the corners here, or the leg seams here, lined up, and so I'm just gonna pin it and I'm gonna baste it, and then we're gonna try that on Lucy tonight. Okay, so I tried the, what is it called? The model, the fit test on Lucy, and it actually fits pretty well. I know they look rather big to be 3T, but it actually fit pretty well. There's a little bit on either side that could be pulled in, but ultimately that's going to be taken in with the elastic on the top and the legs here, so this will fit pretty well on her. So I'm going to get that picked out so that I can put it together the correct way. I went ahead and I grabbed a flour sack towel from upstairs that we just had laying around, and I cut out 8 layers. So I did 1 on the fold, because why cut it if it's on the fold, whatever. And then I did the other layers over here so I can make 2 sets tonight. And I wanted to show these because I keep mentioning the pads that I made previously for her cloth diapers. And this is what I'm talking about. I folded it for a girl, so when you fold it for a boy, you front load it so that it's thicker up front. When you fold it for a girl, the majority of the thickness of this pad is in the middle. So those are the pads that I made for her cloth diapering. And so honestly, I might be able to just kind of cut off this bulk part because it's already stitched together. It's already in pad form. Maybe I could just put this over it. It wouldn't be as long, but it would still, you know, do the job. Maybe I'll cut that. And I've got a few that I've made that I could probably spare a couple. So yeah, so I just wanted to bring those down and show you what I meant when I said I'd already made pads out of flour sack towels. So yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and unpick this fit model, and I'm gonna get the pole, which I went ahead and already cut out. I'm gonna get this attached to the exterior, the pink, and then I'm gonna get this flour sack towel attached to the lining, and then we'll start doing elastic and such. Okay, so you can see here I've got the lining and the flour sack towel on there. I altered it a little bit just to be skinnier because I need room to put the elastic channels in here. And then I've got the pull fabric on the decorative fabric with the shiny side, the waterproof side, facing in. So what we're going to do here is lay these on top. We've got right side lining to the right side of the pull here, so then your exterior fabric, nope, that's wrong. That's how it's gonna, okay, so it's gonna end up like this. Here we go. So it's gonna end up outside pull lining, so we can take this lining and put that flat and put the right side of the exterior on to there, and then we're going to go ahead and stitch the elastic channels for the elastic on the leg holes. Okay, so I've got the channel stitched up here for the elastic. You can see in some places I did get a little tight, but my turning tool is a little small paper clip, so you can actually just turn on the side because this fleece is a little bit stretchy here to snake it through there. So once you have your channels done, then you can go ahead and string your elastic through. I recommend doing this before flipping it, just based on my experience so far with these fancy pants, we call them, is that it's easier to thread the elastic before it's turned. So I thread the elastic, backstitch a couple times on these ends here, and then sew up both sides. Then I'll come in, I'll clip here, I'll clip the corners, and that'll make it easier for turning. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that on this other side. Okay, now that the elastic is all in there and I've clipped the corners, I flipped it, folded inside out, or right side out, now I've got everything on the correct side, and we're going to basically start sewing it up like pair of underpants. So here's your leg hole. You pull these two sides together and just sew a little rectangle here that catches both ends. Same on the other side. Okay, so now we've got our leg holes all pulled together here. And the final step is then to do a waistband. And you'll notice in an earlier video I had said that the inner lining was a little bit bigger than the exterior because you're meant to fold it down. I've actually made a few of these since that video, and I found that because this is the layer that soaks up most of the liquid, when you then take that as the waistband, she ends up leaking out of them overnight, and then they don't do what they're supposed to do. So I'm test running a new method here, and we're gonna be just using a whole different set of fabric, more of a anti-pill fleece, I guess you could call it, to make a waistband around the outside. So I'm going to go cut a strip of this and sew that around similar to the way that you would sew your bias tape binding on, and then this pair will be done. Okay, so I lied a little bit. You are not going to be done. So I've got the first part of my waistband on. I'm going to fold it over twice like binding, and you're going to leave a little gap so that you can thread the final elastic around it. Waistband's all sewed on except for one little hole. Find it. It's hard to find in the black waistband. There we go. So what I'm going to do is thread this elastic through the band. Okay, now that it's threaded through, I'll go through, sew these together, tuck it in, and sew this waistband, or we'll be done. So that was my little brief tutorial, first one ever. I hope everything was clear. If there's any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comments. I'd love to chat. If you have any suggestions going forward, love to take them. I'm always open to that. Right now, I am just loving sewing, loving making projects for my daughter. She's already requested a backpack for school. So that's my next project. I'll be drafting one out later tonight, a pattern, so I can get that started. And hopefully I can take some videos while I'm doing that and post that up, because this is a lot of fun. Sewing is my passion. Yeah, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it if you've made it this far. Let's connect. So thanks again, and have a wonderful night. Bye.